away from my sight!
Take her away from my sight. The grand hall of Nightingale Manor froze. Every breath stopped. A young maid stood trembling in the center of polished marble floors, while nobles in silk gowns and tailored works whispered, laughed, and pointed fingers at her like she was dirt beneath their boots.
I do not know this child.
Sliced through the air like winter frost, each word deliberate and cold. His dark eyes remained fixed on the woman before him, the one carrying his child, though he refused to acknowledge it. Rosalie Alexander flinched. Her hands moved instinctively to her swollen belly, protecting what she knew he would deny.
Your Grace, please. It is your child.
The entire hall erupted into laughter, cruel, mocking laughter that bounced off gilded walls and crystal chandeliers. A maid dares claim the Duke. She wants the title through pregnancy. Disgusting. Look at her, trembling like a frightened mouse. Then came the voice that made everything worse. Lady Arabella Hawthorne stepped forward, her smile sharp as broken glass. Her emerald gown rustled as she moved closer, positioning herself beside the Duke, like she already owned the space. She should be removed immediately, Your Grace. A servant attempting to attach herself to the Nightingale bloodline through lies and manipulation. How utterly pathetic. Rosalie turned to her desperately, eyes wide with disbelief. You know the truth. You know what happened. Lady Arabella's smile only widened. The Duke's jaw tightened. His hand gripped the armrest of his chair until his knuckles turned white. When he spoke again, his voice dropped to something colder than before, something final. Remove her from my estate, immediately. Silence crashed over the hall like a wave. Rosalie's breath caught in her throat. My lord, please, I am carrying your heirs. Two guards in burgundy uniforms moved forward without hesitation. Their gloved hands grabbed her arms roughly, yanking her backward. She stumbled, nearly falling. No, please. Her voice rose in panic as they dragged her across the marble floor. Her worn shoes scraped against polished stone. Nobles stepped back, creating a path, their faces twisted with amusement and disgust. The Duke turned away. He did not stop them. He did not look back. He simply walked toward the tall windows, overlooking his estate, hands clasped behind his back, as if dismissing a minor inconvenience. Just like that, the woman carrying his twin sons was cast into nothing. But what Duke Lucian Nightingale never knew, what he could not have imagined in his pride and certainty, was that this decision would unravel his entire world. Because Rosalie Alexander was not just carrying a child. She was carrying his heirs, twin boys with the unmistakable Nightingale features. And when the truth returned, everything the Duke had built would crumble. Hey, lovely, quick question. If someone destroyed your world in an instant and threw you out while carrying their child, would you fight back or disappear forever? Thank you so much for being here. It really means the world to me. I'm working toward 10,000 subscribers. And if Rosalie's humiliation is already pulling at your heart, please hit that subscribe button, smash the like, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. It helps more than you know. All right, thank you. Now let's get back to what happens to Rosalie after being dragged from the manor like worthless trash. The Alexander cottage on the outskirts of Eldhaven. 12 months before the expulsion, Rosalie Alexander learned survival before she learned kindness. Her childhood home sat at the edge of Eldhaven, a small cottage with cracked windows and a roof that leaked every winter. Her father, Edmund Alexander, worked as a steward for a minor lord until a riding accident ended his life when Rosalie was only 9 years old. Her mother, Catherine, tried to hold their world together. She took in washing, mended clothes for merchants' wives, and sometimes worked the kitchens of wealthier homes. But grief weakened her. Within 2 years, illness took her as well. At 11 years old, Rosalie found herself alone. She moved between households, staying wherever someone needed an extra pair of hands. She cleaned fireplaces, scrubbed floors, and learned to make herself invisible. Wealthy families did not notice servants who kept their heads down and worked without complaint. By the time she turned 19, Rosalie had developed a quiet strength that others often mistook for submission. Her brown hair, usually tied back neatly, framed a face that carried both softness and determination. Her hands, though calloused from years of labor, moved with careful precision. She never wasted movement, never wasted words. When the head housekeeper at Nightingale Manor, Mrs. Pemberton, offered her a position, Rosalie accepted without hesitation. The Duke's estate was the largest in the region, and working there meant stability, something she had never truly known. The manor rose from the landscape like something from a storybook. 3 stories of pale stone, tall windows reflecting afternoon sunlight, and gardens that stretched farther than she could see. Rosalie stood at the servants' entrance, clutching her single bag of belongings. Mrs. Pemberton, a stern woman in her 50s with silver hair pulled into a tight bun, looked her over with sharp eyes. "You come with good references, Miss Alexander. Do not make me regret this decision." "I will not, ma'am. The Duke demands perfection. One mistake, and you will find yourself back on the streets. Do you understand?" "Yes, ma'am." Mrs. Pemberton led her through narrow corridors reserved for staff, explaining rules as they walked. No speaking unless spoken to. No entering the Duke's private chambers without direct orders. No lingering in areas where nobles gathered. The list continued, each rule stricter than the last. Rosalie listened carefully, committing every word to memory. Her room, shared with 3 other maids, sat in the attic. A narrow bed, a small trunk for personal items, and a window overlooking the back gardens. It was more than she had expected. That first night, lying in the unfamiliar bed, Rosalie wondered what kind of man the Duke truly was. She had heard stories, of course. Everyone in Eldhaven knew of Duke Lucian Nightingale, wealthy beyond measure, unmarried by choice, cold and commanding, treating emotion like weakness. She did not expect to ever speak to him directly. Servants like her existed in the background, noticed only when something went wrong. But fate had different plans. Rosalie was dusting shelves in the manor's library, a massive room with floor-to-ceiling bookcases and leather chairs positioned near tall windows. Sunlight streamed through glass panes, illuminating dust particles floating in the air. She worked quietly, methodically, moving from shelf to shelf. The library door opened suddenly. Duke Lucian Nightingale entered without warning. Rosalie's heart jumped. She had seen him from a distance before, but never this close. He stood well over 6 feet tall, dressed in a dark coat tailored perfectly to his broad shoulders. His black hair was combed back neatly, and his sharp jawline gave him an appearance both striking and intimidating. She immediately lowered her gaze and stepped aside, pressing herself against the bookcase to stay out of his way. He walked past her without acknowledgement, moving to the desk near the window. Papers were spread across the surface, documents requiring his attention. Rosalie continued dusting, barely breathing, hoping to finish quickly and leave without disturbing him. Then her hand slipped. A porcelain vase, decorative and likely expensive, tipped from the shelf. She grabbed for it desperately, but her fingers only grazed the edge. It fell. Time slowed. The vase tumbled through the air, heading straight for the marble floor. A hand shot out, catching it inches before impact. Rosalie gasped. The Duke held the vase effortlessly, his reflexes sharp and precise. He straightened, turning to face her fully for the first time. Their eyes met. His were dark blue, almost gray in the sunlight, and they studied her with an intensity that made her stomach twist. Careless. The single word carried no anger, just observation. "Forgive me, Your Grace." "What is your name?" The question surprised her. "Rosalie Alexander, Your Grace." He set the vase carefully on the desk, then returned his attention to her. His gaze moved over her face slowly, as if committing details to memory. "You are new." "Yes, Your Grace. 3 weeks. Pemberton hired you?" "Yes, Your Grace." A long silence stretched between them. Rosalie's hands trembled slightly at her sides. She clasped them together, trying to appear composed. "Be more careful, Miss Alexander. Next time, I may not be here to catch falling objects." "Yes, Your Grace. Thank you." He dismissed her with a slight nod, returning to his desk. Rosalie fled the library, her heart pounding against her ribs. She did not know why, but something about that encounter felt significant. The way he looked at her, the way he asked her name, it lingered in her mind for days afterward. Rosalie discovered the Duke often walked through the gardens in the early morning, before the household fully awakened. She learned this by accident when tasked with cutting fresh flowers for the dining room arrangements. She tried to avoid those times. But one morning, their paths crossed again. The sun had barely risen, casting golden light across rose bushes and hedges trimmed into perfect shapes. Rosalie knelt beside a flower bed, carefully selecting blooms. Footsteps approached on the gravel path. She looked up. The Duke walked toward her, dressed more casually than usual. His coat was unbuttoned, his expression thoughtful rather than stern. He stopped when he saw her. "Miss Alexander," she stood quickly, almost dropping her basket. "Your Grace, you rise early." "The flowers are freshest in the morning, Your Grace." He glanced at her basket, noting the careful selection. "You have an eye for beauty." Heat rose to her cheeks. "Thank you, Your Grace." Another silence fell, but this time it felt different. Less formal, almost comfortable. "Do you enjoy working here, Miss Alexander?" The personal question startled her. "Yes, Your Grace, very much." "And why is that?" She considered her answer carefully. "It is the first place that has felt stable, safe." His expression shifted slightly, something unreadable crossing his features. "Stability is undervalued by those who have always known it." "Yes, Your Grace." He studied her for another moment, then continued his walk without further comment. But Rosalie felt something shift between them. A connection, fragile and undefined, but present. Over the following months, these encounters became more frequent. Brief conversations in corridors, passing glances during household gatherings, moments where their worlds, so vastly different, somehow touched. Rosalie told herself it meant nothing. She was a maid, he was a duke. The distance between them was insurmountable. But her heart did not listen to logic, and neither, it seemed, did his. The first time Duke Lucian Nightingale touched her was an accident. Rosalie was carrying a tray of tea through the narrow servants' corridor when she nearly collided with him rounding the corner. The Duke never used these passages, making his presence completely unexpected. The tray tilted dangerously. His hands caught hers, steadying both her and the tray. His fingers wrapped around her wrists, warm and firm. They stood frozen inches apart. Rosalie could smell his cologne, something with notes of cedar and smoke. His chest rose and fell beneath his dark waistcoat. His eyes, those piercing blue-gray eyes, locked onto hers with an intensity that made breathing difficult. "Careful," he murmured, his voice lower than usual. "Forgive me, Your Grace." He did not release her immediately. His thumbs pressed against inside of her wrists, right where her pulse hammered wildly. Could he feel it? Did he know what his nearness did to her? Finally, he stepped back, clearing his throat. "Watch where you walk, Miss Alexander." "Yes, Your Grace." He continued past her, but she felt his gaze linger even after he disappeared around the corner. That night, lying in her narrow bed, Rosalie pressed her fingers to her wrists where he had held her. The sensation remained, ghostly and persistent. This was dangerous. She knew it with absolute certainty. Yet she could not stop thinking about him. The library, late evening, 2 weeks later, Mrs. Pemberton assigned Rosalie to organize the Duke's private library after discovering several books misshelved. The task would take hours, requiring her to work late into the evening when the household quieted. Rosalie did not mind. She loved books, even if she rarely had time to read them. Running her fingers along leather spines, reading titles, imagining the stories contained within brought her simple joy. She was standing on a ladder, reaching for a volume on the highest shelf when the door opened. The Duke entered, stopping when he saw her. "Miss Alexander, I was not aware anyone would be here." She descended the ladder quickly. "Mrs. Pemberton asked me to reorganize the collection. Your Grace, I can return another time if—" "No. Continue your work." He moved to the large chair near the fireplace, settling in with a book of his own. The fire crackled softly, casting warm light across the room. Rosalie returned to her task, acutely aware of his presence. Every movement felt self-conscious. She tried to work quietly, efficiently, but her hands trembled slightly each time she reached for a new book. "Tell me, Miss Alexander," his voice broke the silence. "Do you read?" She glanced down at him from the ladder. "When I have time, Your Grace, which is rarely." "What do you prefer? Poetry? Romance? History, actually. And philosophy." His eyebrows rose slightly. "Expected. Why is that surprising, Your Grace? Most people prefer stories that offer escape. You choose subjects that demand contemplation. Perhaps I find understanding the world more useful than escaping it." A smile touched his lips, brief but genuine. A fair point. He returned to his book, but Rosalie noticed his attention drifting. He glanced at her periodically, watching her work with what seemed like genuine interest. "Your Grace," she ventured carefully, "may I ask you something?" "I may not answer. Why have you never married?" The question hung in the air, bold, inappropriate. But something about the quiet intimacy of the moment made her brave. He set his book aside, considering her thoughtfully. "Marriage requires vulnerability. Trust. I have seen too many unions built on lies and convenience. So you would rather remain alone? Alone is safer than being betrayed." Sadness flickered across his face, gone so quickly she almost missed it. "That sounds lonely, Your Grace." "Loneliness is preferable to pain, Miss Alexander." Their eyes met across the room. Something unspoken passed between them, an understanding of shared isolation. "Perhaps," Rosalie said softly, "the right person would be worth the risk." His gaze intensified. "And do you believe in such fairy tales?" "I believe in hope, Your Grace." "Without it, what reason do we have to continue?" Silence stretched between them, thick with tension and possibility. Finally, he stood, walking toward the door. He paused with his hand on the handle, looking back at her. "Finish your work, Miss Alexander, and lock the door when you leave." "Yes, Your Grace." He left, but the warmth of the conversation remained. The turning point, 3 weeks later. The shift from attraction to something deeper happened gradually, then all at once. The Duke began requesting Rosalie specifically for tasks, bringing tea to his study, organizing his correspondence, preparing his private chambers. Mrs. Pemberton noticed but said nothing. Questioning the Duke's preferences was not her place. Other servants whispered, but Rosalie ignored them. She told herself these were simply duties, nothing more. But the way he looked at her told a different story. One evening, while delivering documents to his study, she found him standing by the window, tension visible in his shoulders. "Your Grace, are you unwell?" He turned, surprised by her concern. A difficult day, nothing more. She set the documents on his desk, then hesitated. "May I bring you anything? Tea, wine? Your company would suffice." Her breath caught. "Your Grace, I should not—" "I know what you should not do, Miss Alexander. I am asking what you want to do." The questions trapped her. What did she want? To stay, to talk with him, to understand this complicated man who built walls around himself. "I want to stay." Relief crossed his face. He gestured to the chair opposite his desk. "Then stay." They talked for over an hour. About books, about the estate, about nothing and everything. The conversation flowed naturally, as if they had known each other far longer than months. When she finally rose to leave, he walked her to the door. "Thank you," he said quietly, "for staying. Thank you for asking, Your Grace." His hand lifted, almost touching her face, then dropped. The restraint cost him. She could see it in his expression. "Good night, Miss Alexander. Good night, Your Grace." The night everything changed. 3 weeks passed in similar fashion. Stolen conversations, lingering glances. A connection growing stronger despite every reason it should not exist. Then came the Duke's birthday celebration. The manor filled with nobles from across the region. Musicians played in the ballroom. Servants rushed through corridors, carrying trays of food and wine. Rosalie worked tirelessly, refilling glasses, clearing plates, staying invisible as trained. Late in the evening, she slipped into the garden for a moment of air. The party's noise faded to a distant hum. She leaned against a stone pillar, closing her eyes. "Hiding, Miss Alexander?" Her eyes flew open. The Duke stood a few feet away, also seeking escape. "I needed air, Your Grace. The ballroom is stifling." He moved closer. "I agree. I have never enjoyed these gatherings." "Then why host them?" Obligation. Expectation. The weight of the title. He stood beside her now, close enough that their shoulders almost touched. The night air carried the scent of roses and distant rain. "Do you ever wish you could simply be Lucian rather than the Duke?" His name on her lips startled them both. She had never used it before. He turned to face her fully. Every day, the space between them felt charged, electric. Every nerve in Rosalie's body screamed at her to step away, to maintain propriety. She did not move, neither did he. "Rosalie." Her name sounded different in his voice. "Not Miss Alexander, just Rosalie, yes? This is dangerous. I know. We should not. I know." His hand rose, cupping her face gently. His thumb traced her cheekbone. The touch burned through her like fire. "Tell me to stop." She could not, would not. Instead, she leaned into his palm, closing her eyes. "Rosalie," he breathed again, and then his lips were on hers. The kiss was gentle at first, questioning. Then deeper, more desperate, as if months of restraint shattered in an instant. His arms wrapped around her waist, pulling her against him. Her hands found his shoulders, holding on as the world tilted. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, reality crashed back. "This cannot happen," he said, but did not release her. "I know. You should go back inside. I should." Neither moved. "Rosalie, if anyone discovered, they will not." His forehead rested against hers. "I cannot offer you what you deserve. Marriage. Legitimacy. The title means. I am not asking for anything. You should. You should demand everything and more. I only want this. These moments. You." He kissed her again, slower this time, savoring. When he pulled back, his eyes held something she had never seen before: vulnerability, fear, hope. "Meet me tomorrow, the East Wing, midnight. No one uses those rooms." Her heart pounded. This was a line once crossed that could never be uncrossed. Yes. The following night, the East Wing, Rosalie told herself a dozen times not to go. This path led only to ruin. She was a maid. He was a duke. Nothing good could come from this. Yet when midnight approached, she found herself walking through dark corridors, heart racing. He waited in a sitting room lit by a single candle. When he saw her, relief flooded his face. "I thought you would not come. I almost did not." He closed the distance between them. "We can still stop this. You can walk away. I will understand." "Do you want me to leave?" "No, God help me, no." This time when they kissed, there was no hesitation, no doubt, only need and longing and something deeper than either dared name. That night marked the beginning of a secret that would change everything. Nightingale Manor. Over the next 3 months, their affair existed in shadows and stolen moments. Midnight meetings in the unused East Wing became routine. Lucian would leave first, ensuring the corridors were empty. Rosalie would follow 10 minutes later, heart pounding with fear and anticipation. Those hours together felt like stepping into a different world. Behind closed doors, He was not the Duke, and she was not a maid. They were simply Lucian and Rosalie, two people discovering each other. They talked endlessly. He shared stories of his childhood, lonely, despite wealth. His father had been cold, demanding perfection. His mother died when he was 12, leaving him alone with a man who valued title over tenderness. "I swore I would never become him," Lucian admitted one night, lying beside her on the settee, her head resting on his chest. "Yet here I am, Duke of Nightingale Manor. Cold, distant, exactly what he molded me to be." Rosalie's fingers traced patterns on his shirt. "You are not cold, not with me. With you, I am someone different. Someone I did not know still existed." She lifted her head, looking at him. Then perhaps that person was always there, just waiting. He kissed her forehead, pulling her closer. "You make me believe in impossible things." Rosalie shared her own history. The poverty, the loneliness, the years of making herself invisible just to survive. "I never imagined I could feel this," she whispered. "Safe, valued, like I matter. You matter more than you know, but always, always." Reality waited outside those doors. The growing risk, Mrs. Pemberton began watching Rosalie more closely. "You look tired, Miss Alexander. Are you sleeping enough?" "Yes, ma'am, just working hard. See that you do not burn yourself out. The Duke requires perfection from his staff." Other maids whispered behind her back. "She thinks she is better than us now. I saw her coming from the East Wing last night. What business does she have there? The Duke requests her specifically. It is improper." Rosalie tried to ignore the gossip, but fear grew with each passing day. Discovery would mean immediate dismissal. Worse, it could destroy Lucian's reputation. She suggested ending their meetings. "This is too dangerous. If anyone learns..." Lucian pulled her close, his grip almost desperate. "I cannot let you go, not now. We have no future. You know this." "I know, but I cannot stop. I have tried. Every day I tell myself this must end, and every night I wait for you." Tears pricked her eyes. "What will happen to us? I do not know. But I know I need you." They continued meeting, despite the risk, despite logic. Love, once rooted, did not respond to reason. The night that changed everything. 3 months into their affair, everything shifted during one particular evening. Meeting started as usual. Gentle touches, whispered conversations. But the intensity felt different, more urgent, as if they both sensed time running out. "Rosalie," Lucian breathed against her neck. "I want all of you. Not just these stolen hours. You have all of me. Then let me truly claim you." She understood what he asked. This would cross the final boundary, create a bond impossible to break. Fear and desire warred within her. But when she looked into his eyes and saw the same vulnerability she felt, the decision made itself. Yes, that night they became one in every sense. Tender, passionate, consuming. Afterward, lying wrapped in his arms, Rosalie felt tears slip down her cheeks. "Why do you cry?" he asked gently, wiping them away. "Because I love you, and loving you will destroy me." His arms tightened around her. "I love you too, more than title, more than duty, more than my own life. Then why can we not be together properly?" The question hung heavy. They both knew the answer. A duke did not marry a maid. Society would never accept it. His peers would turn against him. The scandal would be devastating. "If I could change the world, I would. But I cannot. I know." They held each other through the night, neither willing to let go, even as dawn approached. 6 weeks later, the realization Rosalie noticed the changes gradually. Exhaustion that would not lift. Nausea in the mornings. Her monthly courses stopped. At first, she dismissed it. Stress, overwork, anything but the truth. But her body knew before her mind accepted it. She was pregnant. Terror struck first, then wonder, then more terror. A child, Lucian's child, growing inside her. What would happen when he learned? Would he abandon her? Marry her? She knew which was more likely, and the knowledge crushed her. For 3 days she avoided him, claiming illness. But he was not fooled. He appeared at the servants' quarters after midnight, risking everything to see her. Rosalie, what is wrong? You have been avoiding me. I cannot, her voice broke. Lucian, I need to tell you something. The fear in his eyes matched her own. What is it? She took a shaking breath. I am with child. The world stopped. His face went pale, then flushed. Emotions flickered across his features too quickly to read. You are certain? Yes. He stepped back, running his hands through his hair. His mind raced, she could see it. Calculating, planning, panicking. This changes everything. I know. I can leave, disappear. You need not acknowledge. Stop! He grabbed her hands. I will not abandon you, or our child. But I need time to think, to plan. This must be handled carefully. Hope flickered in her chest. You truly will not cast me aside? Never. He pulled her into his arms. I love you, Rosalie. That has not changed. She wanted to believe him, desperately, but fear whispered warnings she could not ignore. 2 weeks later, the unraveling begins. Rosalie's condition became harder to hide. The nausea worsened. Her clothes grew tighter. Other servants noticed. Lady Arabella Hawthorne, a noblewoman who frequently visited the manor, noticed too. Arabella had pursued the Duke for years, hoping to become Duchess. His lack of interest never deterred her. She visited often, always immaculately dressed, always watching. She saw how the Duke looked at Rosalie, and she hated her for it. One afternoon, Arabella cornered her in an empty corridor. You are pregnant. Rosalie's blood turned to ice. I do not know what. Do not insult me with lies. I have eyes. Who is the father? Some stable boy? That is none of your concern, my lady. Arabella's smile turned vicious. Oh, but it is, especially if you think you can trap the Duke with a bastard. Rosalie's heart stopped. I have not. I see how you look at him, how he looks at you. Did you truly believe I would not notice? Please, Rosalie whispered, do not do this. Give me one reason why I should protect you, because innocent lives are at stake. Arabella laughed, cold and sharp. The only life I care about is my own, and you, little maid, threaten my future. She swept away, leaving Rosalie trembling against the wall. That night, Rosalie told Lucian everything. Arabella knows. She will expose us. His jaw clenched. I will handle her. How? She wants to destroy me. I will not let that happen. But uncertainty flickered in his eyes. 2 days later, Arabella made her move. The morning of the confrontation, Rosalie woke to urgent knocking. Mrs. Pemberton stood outside, her face grave. The Duke requests your presence in the Grand Hall. Immediately, dread flooded through her. Why? I do not know, but you should not keep him waiting. Rosalie dressed quickly, her hands shaking. Something was wrong, terribly wrong. When she entered the Grand Hall, her worst fears materialized. Nobles filled the space. Lady Arabella stood beside the Duke's chair, triumph gleaming in her eyes, and Lucian sat rigid, his face a mask she could not read. Miss Alexander, he said, his voice formal and cold, it has come to my attention that you are pregnant. The room fell silent. Every eye turned to her. Rosalie's world tilted. Your Grace, You claim this child is mine. It was not a question. It was an accusation. It is true, she managed to say. Laughter erupted around her, cruel, mocking, devastating. A maid dares to claim the Duke? She wants the title through deception. How pathetic. Rosalie looked at Lucian, pleading silently. Their eyes met. For one brief moment, she saw anguish in his gaze, pain, conflict. Then he looked away, and she knew he was going to deny her, deny their child, deny everything. The Grand Hall of Nightingale Manor, continued the Duke's voice cut through the laughter like a blade. I know nothing of this child. 4 words, simple, devastating, final. Rosalie's knees nearly buckled. Her hands instinctively moved to her belly, protecting what he now refused to claim. Your Grace, her voice trembled. You know the truth. Please. Lady Arabella stepped forward, her emerald gown rustling with satisfaction. Your Grace, this is clearly a desperate attempt by a servant to elevate her station. She should be punished for such slander against your name. Matthias Evermore, the Duke's steward, stood nearby with his ledger, his face carefully neutral. But Rosalie saw the discomfort in his eyes. He knew, others knew, yet no one would speak. "Please," Rosalie's voice grew stronger, fueled by desperation. "I am telling the truth. This child, these children are yours." The mention of twins made several nobles gasp. "Twins?" Arabella laughed sharply. "The lie grows more elaborate by the moment." How convenient. Lucian's jaw tightened. His knuckles whitened as his grip on the armrest increased. Rosalie watched him, searching for any sign of the man who had held her, loved her, promised to protect her. She found none. The Duke she saw now wore a mask of cold nobility. The private man she knew had vanished, replaced by duty and pride. "Your Grace," she tried once more, her voice breaking. "Please do not do this. Not to them. Whatever you feel about me, they are innocent." Enough. The single word silenced the room. Lucian stood slowly, his height suddenly imposing. He looked down at her from his position on the dais, and the distance between them felt infinite. "Remove her from my estate. Immediately." The words echoed through the grand hall. Rosalie could not breathe. Her vision blurred with tears she refused to let fall. "Not here, not in front of them." "My lord," I said immediately. Two guards in burgundy uniform stepped forward. Their faces held no emotion. They were simply following orders. Rosalie backed away instinctively. "No, please. I have nowhere to go. That is no longer my concern." The coldness in his voice shattered something inside her. This was not her Lucian. This was the Duke, the man shaped by duty and expectation, who had learned to bury emotion so deeply it might never surface again. The guards reached her. Their hands, rough and indifferent, grabbed her arms. "No!" Panic flooded her system. "Please, I am carrying his heirs." Laughter erupted again, louder now. Feeding on her desperation, they dragged her backward. Her shoes scraped against the polished marble. Nobles stepped aside, creating a path lined with judgment and disgust. "Lucian," she used his given name, abandoning all pretense. "Look at me." He did not turn. His back remained to her as he faced the tall windows, hands clasped behind him, every inch the unfeeling Duke. "Please, I love you." The confession hung in the air, vulnerable and useless. Still, he did not turn. The guards pulled her harder. She stumbled, nearly falling. Her shoulder struck a column, pain shooting through her. One of the guards cursed, yanking her upright without care. "Careful with her!" a voice called out. Serafina Veilcrest, Rosalie's cousin, pushed through the crowd. "She is pregnant. Have some decency." Serafina's presence gave Rosalie a moment of hope. Her cousin, as a seamstress who worked for several noble families, had connections. Perhaps she could. "Miss Veilcrest." Lady Arabella's voice dripped with false sweetness. "Unless you wish to join your cousin in exile, I suggest you step aside." Serafina's face paled, but she held her ground. "This is wrong. Everyone knows." "Everyone knows," Arabella interrupted, "that servants who attempt to manipulate their betters deserve exactly what they receive." The guards continued, dragging Rosalie through the hall. Her strength faded, her legs barely supported her. All fight drained away, leaving only hollow defeat. They hauled her through the grand entrance, down marble steps, across the courtyard where she had once walked freely. Servants gathered at windows, watching. Some faces held pity. Others, vindication. Most looked away, grateful it was not them. The iron gates of Nightingale Manor loomed ahead. Beyond them lay Eldhaven's streets, cold, dangerous, unforgiving. The guards threw her through the gates with enough force that she collapsed onto the cobblestones. Pain exploded through her knees and palms. Her bag, containing her few belongings, landed beside her. The gates clanged shut. The guards returned to the manor without a backward glance. Rosalie knelt on the cold stones, staring at the closed gates. Behind them lay the life she had known, brief and secret but real. Now she had nothing. Slowly, painfully, she rose to her feet. Blood seeped from her scraped palms. Her knees throbbed. But worse than any physical pain was the ache in her chest, where her heart felt like it had been carved out. The afternoon sun beat down mercilessly. She needed to move to find shelter before nightfall. But her body refused to cooperate behind those gates. Lucian stood at his chamber window, watching. His hands gripped the windowsill so tightly the wood creaked. He watched her kneel. I watched her rise, gather her bag with shaking hands, walk away, alone and broken. Your Grace. Matthias Evermore stood at the door. The steward's usual composure had cracked, revealing distress beneath. What is it? Lucian's voice came out rough. Are you certain this was necessary? Lucian's eyes never left Rosalie's retreating figure. It was the only option. She is carrying. I know what she is carrying. The words exploded from him. Do you think I do not know? Matthias fell silent. Matthias's shoulders sagged. Lady Arabella threatened to destroy both Rosalie and the children if I acknowledged them. She has evidence, letters, servants willing to testify we conspired against her family. She fabricated everything, but society would believe her over me. So you sacrificed Miss Alexander to protect her? I sacrificed everything to keep her alive. His voice broke. If I claimed those children, Arabella would ensure both mother and babies died in suspicious accidents. This way, at least Rosalie lives. Does she know this? No. And she never can. She must hate me. It is the only way she will stay away, stay safe. Your Grace, there must be another solution. Lucian finally turned from the window. His face, usually so controlled, showed raw anguish. There is not. I have examined every possibility. This is the only path where Rosalie and my children survive. At what cost? My happiness. My honor, everything that mattered. Matthias bowed his head. I am sorry, Your Grace. Leave me. The steward departed, leaving Lucian alone with his choice. He returned to the window, but Rosalie had disappeared from view. Gone, cast out into a world that would show her no mercy. He pressed his forehead against the glass, closing his eyes. Forgive me, he whispered to the empty room. Forgive me, my love. Rosalie's first night in exile darkness fell over Eldhaven like a shroud. Rosalie wandered the streets in a daze. Her feet carried her toward the docks, where the poor congregated. She had no plan, no destination, just endless walking to avoid thinking. The city she once knew as a distant presence now surrounded her with harsh reality. Beggars lined alleys. Drunks stumbled from taverns. Women sold their bodies in shadowed doorways. This was her world now. She found an abandoned storefront, its windows broken, its door hanging loose. Not shelter exactly, but better than the open street. She collapsed in the corner, pulling her thin cloak around her. Cold seeped through the fabric. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but she had no money for food. Her hands moved to her belly, still small but growing. I am sorry, she whispered to her unborn children. I am so sorry. Tears finally came, hot and endless. She wept for lost love, for shattered trust, for the future that would never be. She wept until exhaustion claimed her, dragging her into fitful sleep where dreams mixed with nightmares. In those dreams, Lucian reached for her, his face filled with regret, but every time she tried to touch him, he vanished like smoke. She woke before dawn, shivering and sore. Pale light filtered through broken windows. Her first full day in exile began. She needed 3 things: shelter, food, and work. Without them, she and her babies would not survive. Rosalie rose, brushing dirt from her dress. Her hands still bore dried blood from yesterday's fall. Her body ached, but beneath the pain, something harder formed. She would survive. Not for herself, but for the innocent lives depending on her. If Lucian would not protect them, she would. Straightening her spine, she walked into the morning light. Behind her lay the manor, visible on the hill. Ahead lay an uncertain future, but she would face it. She had no other choice. The streets of Eldhaven, 3 days after expulsion, Eldhaven, showed Rosalie its cruelest face. Every door she knocked on closed when they saw her condition. Pregnant women without husbands were liabilities, scandals waiting to happen. "We have no work for your kind," a baker's wife said, her face pinched with disapproval. "Please, I only need—" The door slammed. Rosalie moved to the next shop, and the next, each rejection carved deeper wounds. By the third day, she had eaten nothing but an apple stolen from a market cart. Her stolen prize immediately followed by guilt that nearly made her vomit. She found herself at the edge of town, near the old mill district. Structures here sagged with age and neglect. Windows were boarded. Doors hung crooked. But people lived here, the desperate, the forgotten, those with nowhere else to go. Rosalie wandered until she spotted a woman sweeping the steps of a small bakery. The building looked marginally better than its neighbors, fresh paint on the sign. Martha's Bread and Kindness. The name gave her hope, desperate, foolish hope, but hope nonetheless. She approached slowly. "Excuse me, ma'am." The woman looked up. She was perhaps 50, with grey-streaked hair pulled into a practical bun and kind eyes that immediately assessed Rosalie's condition. "You look half-starved, child. When did you last eat?" The kindness in her voice broke something in Rosalie. Tears welled up before she could stop them. 3 days ago. I am sorry. I should not have bothered. Nonsense. Come inside." Martha ushered her into the warm bakery. The scent of fresh bread made Rosalie's stomach clench painfully. Martha sat her at a small table and immediately brought out bread, cheese, and weak tea. "Eat slowly. Your stomach needs time to adjust." Rosalie obeyed, forcing herself to take small bites when every instinct screamed to devour everything. Martha watched with assessing eyes. "What happened to you?" The question hung heavy. Rosalie considered lying, but what point was there now? "I worked at Nightingale Manor. I became pregnant. The Duke denied the children were his and had me removed." She expected judgment, condemnation. Instead, Martha's expression softened with understanding. Men with power rarely face consequences for their actions. Women always do. She refilled Rosalie's tea. "What is your name, child?" "Rosalie." "Rosalie Alexander. Well, Rosalie Alexander, you look capable. Can you work a kitchen?" Hope flared. "Yes. I can clean, cook, organize, whatever you need. I cannot pay much. Room and board, plus a few coins weekly. But you would be safe here." Safe. The word felt foreign. "Impossible. Why would you help me? You do not know me." Martha smiled sadly. "I was you once. 30 years ago. Pregnant and cast out by a man who swore he loved me. Someone helped me then. I help others now. It is how kindness survives in cruel worlds." Tears spilled down Rosalie's cheeks. "Thank you. Thank you so much. Do not thank me yet. The work is hard, the hours long. But you will have a roof and food. And when your time comes, I will help deliver those babies." "How did you know there are 2? Martha gestured at Rosalie's belly. "You are too large for one. I have delivered enough babies to recognize twins." Rosalie's hands moved protectively to her stomach. "I will work harder than anyone, I promise." "I believe you, child. Now finish eating, then I will show you where you will sleep." The room above the bakery was small, barely larger than a closet. A narrow bed, a chest, a small window overlooking the alley. But it was hers. Rosalie stood in the center, breathing in the scent of bread from below. She had shelter, safety, a chance. For the first time since being cast out, she allowed herself to believe she might survive. 5 months later, the birth winter gripped Eldhaven with brutal cold. Snow piled in the streets and ice-coated windows. Rosalie's belly had grown enormous. Martha predicted the birth would come soon, possibly within days. Rosalie felt the babies move constantly now, their kicks strong and frequent. She talked to them during quiet moments, promising a better life than she currently provided. "Your father does not know you," she whispered one night, "but I will love you enough for both parents. I swear it." The labor started just before dawn. Sharp pain woke her, stealing her breath. Martha appeared immediately, having heard Rosalie's gasp through the thin walls. "It is time? I think so. Then let us bring these children into the world. The labor lasted 14 hours. Brutal. Exhausting. Rosalie screamed until her voice gave out, then screamed silently through the pain. Martha coached her through each wave, offering water, cool cloths, and steady encouragement. Finally, as night fell, the first baby emerged, a boy. Tiny but fierce, crying immediately with healthy lungs. "One more, Rosalie. You are almost done." 20 minutes later, the second boy arrived, smaller than his brother but equally alive. Martha cleaned them both, wrapping them in soft cloth. She placed one on each side of Rosalie. Rosalie stared at her sons, overwhelmed. They were perfect, beautiful, undeniable proof of love that once existed, and they looked exactly like Lucian. Dark hair already showing signs of curl, strong features even as newborns. The elder had Lucian's stern expression, the younger his thoughtful eyes. "What will you name them?" Martha asked gently. Rosalie had thought about this for months, names that would give them strength for the difficult life ahead. "Henry," she said, touching the elder twin, "and Theodore." Her fingers traced the younger's face. Strong names for strong boys. Rosalie held them close, feeling their warmth, their life. These children were everything. Her purpose, her future. "I will protect you," she promised fiercely. "No matter what it costs, you will never doubt you are loved." Henry yawned, his tiny mouth opening wide. Theodore's hand found Rosalie's finger, gripping with surprising strength. In that moment, despite everything, despite the pain and betrayal and exile, Rosalie felt complete. She had lost the man she loved, but she had gained two souls more precious than any title or wealth. 2 years later, the growing boys Henry and Theodore grew quickly, developing distinct personalities. Henry, the elder by 20 minutes, was bold and curious. He climbed everything, explored constantly, and possessed Lucian's commanding presence even at 2 years old. Theodore was quieter, more observant. He watched before acting, thought before speaking, and had a gentleness that reminded Rosalie of Lucian's private moments. She raised them in the room above the bakery, which had become home. Martha proved herself a surrogate grandmother, doting on the boys, teaching Rosalie about motherhood. Rosalie worked tirelessly, baking bread before dawn, serving customers throughout the day, cleaning late into the night. Every coin she earned went toward her son's future. She never spoke of their father. When they asked, she said simply, "He is not part of our lives." "Will he ever be?" Theodore asked once, his young face serious. "I do not know, my love. Do we look like him?" The question pierced her. "Yes, very much." "Is that why you sometimes cry when you look at us?" "Children saw too much, understood more than adults credited. I cry because I love you so much it hurts. Good hurt, not bad." Theodore seemed satisfied with this answer. Henry, close hearing, simply nodded and returned to his wooden blocks. Rosalie carefully shielded them from Eldhaven's harsh realities. They knew poverty but not hunger, thanks to Martha's bakery. They knew hard work but also play and laughter. She taught them letters using flour on the bakery counter. She taught them numbers by counting bread loaves. She taught them kindness by example. "Why do we give bread to the hungry man?" Henry asked, one day watching Rosalie pass rolls to a beggar. "Because we have enough, and he does not. But we are poor too. Poor and hungry are different things. We may not have wealth, but we have food and shelter. Sharing what we can is how we stay human." Henry considered this seriously, then nodded. Even at 2, he understood responsibility. The growing danger, but Eldhaven was not a safe place for 2 boys who looked undeniably noble. As the twins grew, people noticed. Whispers started in the marketplace. "Those children do not look like commoners. The mother was from Nightingale Manor. I heard she claimed to be the Duke." Impossible. The Duke would never. Yet look at those boys. The resemblance is undeniable. The whispers reached dangerous ears. Merchants reported the rumors to wealthy clients. Servants gossiped to their noble employers. Eventually, the whispers reached Nightingale Manor. Meanwhile, at the manor, Duke Lucian Nightingale had not been the same since Rosalie's expulsion. Outwardly, he maintained appearances. Cold, commanding, efficient. Inwardly, he deteriorated. Sleep eluded him. Food lost taste, nothing brought joy. Matthias evermore watched his master's decline with growing concern. "Your Grace, you must eat. I am not hungry. You have not been hungry for 2 years. Lucian's jaw tightened. "Leave it, Matthias, I cannot. You waste away while the woman I love raises my children in poverty because I failed to protect them." "Yes, Matthias, I am aware." The rare display of emotion startled the steward. Lucian never spoke of Rosalie, never acknowledged what happened. "Then, do something about it." "I cannot. Lady Arabella still watches. She still has those fabricated documents. If I make any move toward Rosalie, Arabella will act. So you simply wait." "I wait for an opportunity, for Arabella to make a mistake, for something, anything that will let me fix what I destroyed." But no opportunity came. Months became years. The wait stretched endlessly, until the rumors started. "Your Grace?" Matthias entered the study. One morning, his face troubled. "There are reports from town about 2 young boys who bear striking resemblance to you." Lucian's head snapped up. "What?" "Twins, dark hair, noble features, living with a woman matching Miss Alexander's description in the Mill District." Lucian stood so quickly his chair toppled. "Are they certain?" "The reports are consistent across multiple sources." "How old are these children?" "Approximately 2 years." The timing matched perfectly. Lucian's hands trembled. His sons, his heirs, living in the worst part of Eldhaven. "I must see them." "Your Grace, if Lady Arabella learns, I do not care anymore. Those are my children, my sons. I have failed them for 2 years. That ends now." Matthias saw the determination in his master's eyes. This was not a request. It was a declaration. "Very well, Your Grace. I will make discreet arrangements." Eldhaven Marketplace, 2 weeks after rumors reached the manor. Rosalie took Henry and Theodore to the market every Thursday. The boys loved watching vendors, seeing colorful produce, hearing the bustle of commerce. She held their hands tightly, never letting them wander. The market could be dangerous, especially for children who looked different from their surroundings. Today felt no different than usual. Morning sun warmed the cobblestones. Vendors called out prices. Customers haggled and complained. Henry tugged her hand. "Mama, look! Apples." "We cannot afford apples today, my love, but they are so red and shiny." Theodore, more practical, pointed to the bread vendor. "We need bread, though." "Very true, Theodore. Bread first, then we shall see about treats." She navigated through the crowd, her sons close beside her. She stopped at the bread stall, examining loaves while the vendor quoted prices. That was when she felt eyes on her. Instinct made her turn, her breath caught. Across the marketplace, partially hidden behind a fish stall, stood a familiar figure. Lucian. He wore common clothes, a tempting disguise, but she would know him anywhere. His height, his posture, the way he held himself despite the humble attire. Their eyes locked across the distance. Time stopped. 2 years dissolved in an instant. Every emotion she had buried surged to the surface. Love, anger, betrayal, longing. His gaze dropped to the boys beside her. Rosalie watched his expression change. Shock, recognition, devastation. He saw his sons for the first time. Henry, sensing something, looked up at his mother. "Mama, what is wrong?" Rosalie tore her gaze away, her heart pounding. "Nothing, my love. Let us finish our shopping." But when she glanced back, Lucian had moved closer, no longer hiding. He walked toward them like a man in a dream, his eyes never leaving the twins. Panic flooded Rosalie. She grabbed both boys, pulling them behind her protectively. "Stay behind me," she whispered. "But Mama..." Lucian stopped several feet away, respecting the distance but unable to look away from his sons. "Rosalie," her name came out broken. "You have no right to be here. I know. But I had to see them. I had to know." His voice failed. The marketplace continued around them, but they existed in a separate bubble. Vendors ignored them. Customers passed without noticing. Henry peeked around his mother's skirts, curious about this tall stranger. "Who is he, Mama?" The innocent question shattered Rosalie. How did she answer? "This is your father, the man who threw us away. This is the Duke who denied you existed." "No one important," she said finally. Lucian flinched as if struck. "Rosalie, please. I need to explain." "There is nothing to explain. You made your choice. Now leave us alone." She turned to go, pulling the boys with her. "Rosalie, wait!" Lucian's voice rose desperately. "I did it to protect you." The words stopped her. She turned slowly. "What, Lady Arabella?" "She threatened to kill you and the children if I acknowledged them. She had fabricated evidence that would destroy us all. Casting you out was the only way to keep you alive." The marketplace seemed to tilt. Rosalie's mind raced, re-examining the past 2 years through this new lens. "You expect me to believe that you sacrificed us out of love? It is the truth. I have spent every day since regretting it, searching for a way to undo the damage, to bring you home." "Home?" Bitterness dripped from the word. "We have no home. You made certain of that." Theodore tugged her hand. "Mama, why are you crying?" She had not realized tears were falling. She wiped them quickly. "It is nothing, my love." Lucian's eyes moved between the twins, drinking in every detail. "They look like you. Yes, everyone can see it. What are their names?" She should refuse to answer, deny him even this small knowledge. But looking at his anguished face, she found she could not. "Henry and Theodore, strong names." His voice was thick with emotion. May I speak with them?" "Absolutely not. Rosalie, just a moment. They are my sons. They are my sons. You have no claim to them. You gave up that right when you threw us into the streets." The crowd began to notice the confrontation. Whispers spread like wildfire. "Is that the Duke? With that woman? Those are the children everyone speaks of. They do look like him." Rosalie recognized the danger. This scene would be reported everywhere within hours. "We are leaving." She pulled the boys firmly. "Rosalie, please, I love you. I have always loved you. Everything I did was not enough." The words burst from her. "Your love was not enough to protect us. Your love cast us into poverty and danger. Do not speak to me of love." She hurried away, half dragging the confused twins. Lucian stood frozen, watching them disappear into the crowd. Matthias materialized beside him. "Your Grace, we must go. This scene will reach Lady Arabella within the hour. I do not care anymore. You should. She still has. Let her use whatever weapons she has. I am done hiding. Those are my sons. That is the woman I love, and I will not abandon them again." Later that day, Nightingale Manor, Lady Arabella Hawthorne heard about the marketplace incident within 2 hours. She arrived at the manor in a fury, her carriage horses lathered from the rushed journey. Lucian received her in his study, his expression carefully neutral. "You dare," she hissed, "after everything I warned you. You dare approach that woman publicly? I approached my sons and the woman I love." Arabella's face twisted. "You love her? A mere maid? When you could have married me, elevated yourself through proper alliance." "I never wanted to marry you, Arabella. You forced yourself into my life, created threats when I rejected your advances. I created opportunities for both of us, but you threw them away for a servant. Those opportunities were built on lies and manipulation. I was a fool to ever let you control me." Arabella pulled a folder from her bag, slamming it on his desk. "These documents will destroy you. Fabricated or not, society will believe them. Your reputation will crumble. Your title will be questioned. Everything you are will vanish." Lucian picked up the folder, examining the papers. Letters supposedly proving conspiracy. Testimonies from servants. Documents that looked official and damning. Then he did something that shocked them both. He walked to the fireplace and threw the entire folder into the flames. "What are you doing?" Arabella shrieked. "Removing your power over me. I have copies, multiple copies. Use them! His voice was steel. Publish them in every newspaper. Show them to every noble. I do not care anymore. You are mad. Perhaps, but I am free. He turned to face her fully. For 2 years I have lived in fear of you. Fear of what you might do to Rosalie and my children. That ends today. You will be ruined. Better ruined with them than successful without them. Arabella's face went red with rage. You will regret this. I will ensure you lose everything. The only thing I regret is listening to you in the first place. Now get out of my home and never return. You cannot throw me out. I am nothing to me. Guards. 2 men appeared at the door. Escort Lady Hawthorne from the premises. She is no longer welcome here. Arabella spluttered with outrage as guards approached. This is not over. You will pay for this humiliation. Perhaps, but it will be worth it. They removed her bodily, her protests echoing through the halls. Matthias entered after she was gone. Your Grace, that was either the bravest or most foolish thing you have ever done. Likely both. Lucian moved to the window, looking toward town. Send word to Rosalie. I need to speak with her. She will not come willingly, then I will go to her, publicly, repeatedly, until she believes I mean every word. That evening, Martha's bakery Rosalie paced the small room above the bakery, while Martha watched the sleeping twins. He spoke to you, Martha said, not asking. Yes. What did he say? That he cast me out to protect us, that Lady Arabella threatened our lives. Do you believe him? Rosalie stopped pacing, pressing her hands to her temples. I do not know what to believe. The man I knew would never have treated me so cruelly, but the man who threw me out felt like a stranger. Perhaps both are true. Perhaps he was cruel to be kind. That makes no sense. Martha smiled sadly. Love rarely does. A knock sounded at the door downstairs, unusual for this late hour. Martha went down to check, returning moments later with a sealed letter from the Duke, delivered by his steward. Rosalie stared at the envelope like it might bite. I do not want to read it. Then do not, but you will always wonder. Truth rang in those words. Rosalie took the letter with shaking hands. She broke the seal, unfolding expensive paper that smelled faintly of cedar. Rosalie, words cannot undo what I have done. No apology can repair the harm I caused. But I need you to understand the truth. Lady Arabella created evidence that would have destroyed us all. She threatened to kill you and our children if I acknowledged them. I believed her. I still believe she would have done it. Casting you out was the most painful decision of my life. But I chose your life over my happiness. I chose our children's safety over my honor. I know you have no reason to believe me. Trust is fragile, and I shattered ours completely. But our sons deserve better than this. They deserve their father, their birthright, everything I can give them. And you, my love, deserve the life I promised. The one I was too coward to provide. When it mattered, I am done hiding, done living in fear. Lady Arabella no longer controls me. If you will allow it, I want to acknowledge our sons publicly. I want to make you my Duchess. I want to undo every wrong. If you refuse, I will understand. But I had to try. Forever yours. Lucian. Rosalie read the letter 3 times, tears streaming down her face. Martha watched quietly. What will you do? I do not know. How can I trust him again? How can I risk the boys' hearts? Only you can answer that, child. But consider this, a man who throws away his pride, his reputation, and his safety is a man who means what he says, or a man who has nothing left to lose. Perhaps. But you have to decide which you believe. Rosalie looked at her sleeping sons. Henry sprawled across the bed, one arm flung out. Theodore curled beside him, thumb in his mouth despite her attempts to break the habit. They deserved more than this tiny room, more than poverty and hardship. They deserved their father, if he truly meant what he wrote. The following morning at Martha's bakery, Rosalie sent her response before she could talk herself out of it. Meet me in the park near the fountain, noon. Come alone. If this is manipulation, I will disappear where you will never find us. She left the twins with Martha, telling them she had important errands. Henry protested, wanting to come. Theodore sensed something significant and watched her with serious eyes. "Be good for Martha. I will return soon." The park sat near the center of Eldhaven, a rare green space where merchants' families walked on Sundays. The fountain at its center, carved from white stone, depicted some ancient duke whose name nobody remembered. Rosalie arrived early, positioning herself where she could see approaches from all directions. Old survival instincts died hard. Lucian appeared precisely at noon, alone as requested. He wore fine clothes but nothing ostentatious. His expression showed nervousness, something she had never seen in him before. He stopped several feet away, giving her space. "Thank you for coming. I almost did not." "I understand." Silence stretched between them. 2 years of hurt and misunderstanding formed walls higher than any manor gate. Rosalie spoke first. "Explain everything. From the beginning. Every detail." He did. Standing in the park while people passed around them, Lucian told her about Arabella's threats. The fabricated evidence. The impossible choice between protecting Rosalie's life or claiming their children. "I thought if I made you hate me, you would stay away, stay safe. I never imagined," his voice broke. "I never imagined how hard it would be, how much I would need you, how every day without you felt like drowning. You think your pain compares to mine? I gave birth alone, raised our children in poverty, every day wondering if I could keep them fed and safe. I know. There is no comparison. What I endured was nothing next to what I forced you to suffer. So why now? Why come forward after 2 years? Because I learned you and the boys existed in town. I saw you, saw them, and I realized I had failed in every way that mattered." He stepped closer, his eyes pleading. "I cannot undo the past, but I can change the future. If you will let me. How? How do we move forward from this? Honestly, openly, I will acknowledge the twins publicly as my heirs. I will make you my wife if you will have me. I will spend every remaining day proving I am worthy of your trust." "And Arabella?" "I destroyed her leverage, burned the fabricated documents, threw her out of my home and my life. She may still spread rumors, but without evidence they are just words." Rosalie studied his face, searching for deception or hidden motives. She found only raw sincerity. "I need time. The boys need time. You cannot simply appear in our lives and expect immediate forgiveness. I know. I will wait as long as necessary. And if I decide I cannot trust you, if I choose to raise them alone," pain flickered across his face, "then I will respect your decision, but I will still provide for them. Financially, ensuring they have everything they need. You can send me away, but I will not abandon my sons again." The declaration rang with truth. Rosalie made her decision. "You may visit us at the bakery under supervision. The boys deserve to know their father, but my trust must be earned slowly." Hope blazed in his eyes. "Thank you. You will not regret this." "I hope not, because if you hurt them, if you disappoint them the way you disappointed me, I will disappear so completely you will never find us." "Understood." 2 weeks later, Martha's bakery Lucian visited daily. At first, the twins were shy around this tall stranger, but children adapted quickly, especially when the stranger brought toys, sweets, and endless patience. Henry warmed to him first, drawn to Lucian's strength and commanding presence. They would sit on the floor, building elaborate structures with wooden blocks, while Lucian explained basic engineering principles. Theodore took longer, watching carefully before engaging, but once he decided Lucian was safe, he climbed into his father's lap during story time and fell asleep there. The sight of Lucian holding Theodore, reading to Henry, made Rosalie's chest ache. This was what should have been, what was stolen from all of them. "You are good with them," she admitted one evening, after the boys went to bed. "They are easy to love." He hesitated. Like their mother. Heat rose to her cheeks. "Lucian, I know, too soon, I apologize." But the words hung between them, acknowledged and significant. 1 month later, The public announcement Lucian requested Rosalie and the twins visit the manor. She initially refused, memories of her expulsion too vivid. I cannot go back there. Please. I want to do this properly. Publicly. No more hiding, no more shame. Something in his tone convinced her. She agreed, bringing Martha for moral support. The manor looked exactly as she remembered. Imposing. Beautiful. Terrible. Servants whispered as she passed, but none dared comment directly. The Duke's orders had been clear. He led them to the grand hall where she had been humiliated. Rosalie's steps faltered. I cannot. Trust me, please. The hall filled with nobles, summoned for a special announcement. The same people who had laughed at her expulsion now watched with curious expressions. Damien Blackwood, a rival duke and observer of political games, stood near the back with knowing eyes. Serafina, Rosalie's cousin, pushed to the front, her face glowing with vindication. Lucian positioned Rosalie and the twins in the center of the hall, the same spot where guards had dragged her away. Henry and Theodore clung to her skirts, overwhelmed by the crowd. Lucian's voice rang out, clear and commanding. 2 years ago, in this hall, I made the greatest mistake of my life. I denied my children and cast out the woman I love. Gasps echoed through the room. Whispers erupted like wildfire. I did this believing I was protecting them from political machinations and deadly threats. But protection through denial is no protection at all. It is cowardice. Rosalie's heart pounded. What was he doing? Today I correct that wrong. Before you all, I acknowledge these boys, Henry and Theodore, as my legitimate heirs. And I ask Rosalie Alexander, the woman who survived my cruelty and raised my sons with grace and strength, to become my fief. The hall exploded with noise, shock, outrage, excitement. Rosalie stared at him, unable to speak. He knelt before her, pulling a ring from his pocket. Simple, but elegant, with a single sapphire. I know I have no right to ask this, but I love you, Rosalie. I have loved you from the moment you nearly dropped that vase in the library. Will you give me the chance to spend my life earning your trust again? Tears streamed down her face. The boys watched with wide eyes, not understanding but sensing importance. Every noble eye fixed on her, waiting, judging. She looked at Lucian kneeling before her. This proud man, humbling himself publicly, claiming their children despite scandal, offering her everything he'd had. Stand up, she whispered. He rose slowly, hope and fear warring on his face. She took his hand, feeling the familiar warmth. Ask me again, in 6 months, if you prove yourself worthy of them. She gestured to the twins, then ask me again. Not a yes, not a no, a possibility. Lucian's smile broke through like sunrise. I will earn it, I swear. He turned to the assembled nobles. These boys are now formally recognized as my heirs. Anyone who questions their legitimacy questions me directly. Silence fell. No one dared challenge the Duke so publicly. Damien Blackwood began clapping slowly. Others joined, the applause growing until it filled the hall. Serafina rushed forward, embracing Rosalie. I knew the truth would come out. I knew it. Henry tugged his father's coat. Does this mean we live here now? Lucian crouched to his son's level. If your mother agrees, yes. Theodore's serious eyes studied him. Will you stay this time? Or will you send us away again? The innocent question struck like a blade. Lucian's eyes glistened with unshed tears. I will never send you away again. I promise on everything I am. Theodore considered this, then nodded. Okay, Henry grinned. Can I have my own room? A big one? Laughter rippled through the hall, breaking the tension. Yes, Lucian chuckled. You can have your own room. 6 months later, the wedding spring arrived with warmth and new blossoms. Rosalie watched Lucian carefully over those 6 months. He visited daily, played with the boys, provided for their needs, never pushed for more than she was willing to give. Slowly, carefully, trust rebuilt. One evening, walking through the manor gardens with him while the twins played nearby, she stopped at the rose bushes where they first truly spoke. Do you remember this place? Every detail. You were cutting flowers. I asked if you enjoyed working here. You remembered. I remember everything about you. She turned to face him. Ask me again. What? What you asked 6 months ago. Ask me again. Understanding dawned. Hope blazed in his eyes. He dropped to one knee right there in the garden, pulling out the same sapphire ring. Rosalie Alexander, will you marry me? Will you let me spend my life making you happy? She pulled him to his feet, cupping his face in her hands. Yes. He kissed her then, deep and full of promise. 2 years of pain and separation dissolved in that moment. The twins cheered from nearby, not fully understanding, but caught up in their parents' joy. The wedding took place in the manor's chapel, small and intimate, just family and true friends, no political spectacle. Serafina served as witness. Martha cried happy tears. Matthias managed the ceremony with his usual efficiency, though his eyes seemed suspiciously bright. Henry and Theodore stood beside their parents, holding hands dressed in miniature formal wear that made them look absurdly grown up. When Lucian and Rosalie exchanged vows, their words held weight earned through suffering. I promised to protect you and our children with my life, Lucian said. To never let pride or fear come between us again. I promised to trust you with my heart, Rosalie responded. To build our future together, not in shadows but in light. They sealed their promises with a kiss, while their sons applauded and guests cheered. 1 year later, the Duchess of Nightingale walked through her gardens, heavily pregnant again. Henry and Theodore ran ahead, chasing butterflies, their laughter bright and free. Lucian appeared beside her, taking her arm to steady her. You should rest the baby. The baby is fine. I am fine. Stop worrying. He smiled, pressing a kiss to her temple. I will worry until this child is born safely, and then you will worry about something else. Likely true. They walked in comfortable silence, watching their sons play. The past felt distant now, though never forgotten. Scars remained, but they had healed. Do you ever regret it? Lucian asked quietly. The struggle? The pain? If you could go back, knowing what would happen, I would change nothing. She turned to him, because everything we endured brought us here. To this moment, this life, even the worst parts, especially those, they taught us what we can survive, what we are willing to fight for. Henry ran back, holding a dandelion. Mama, make a wish. She took the flower, closing her eyes. But she had nothing to wish for. Everything she needed stood right here. She blew the seeds into the wind, watching them scatter across the garden. Theodore joined them, slipping his small hand into Lucian's. Father, will you teach us about the stars tonight? Of course. I will teach you everything I know. The family walked back to the manor together as sunset painted the sky in shades of gold and rose. Rosalie's story had begun in shame and ended in triumph. Cast out as worthless, she returned as a duchess. Her sons, denied their heritage, now stood as heirs to one of the kingdom's greatest estates. And the duke, who had once thrown her away, now held her close, having learned that true nobility came not from title, but from honor. Their tale became legend in Eldhaven, proof that love, however tested, could survive even the cruelest betrayals. The ruthless duke had thrown out the maid he got pregnant, not knowing she carried his heirs. But in the end, those heirs saved them all. This is Rosalie and Lucian's complete story of betrayal, survival, and redemption. If their journey moved you, please subscribe to Eleanor's Royal Stories and hit that notification bell so you never miss another tale. Drop a comment sharing your thoughts. Did the Duke deserve forgiveness? Could you have trusted him again? Thank you for being part of this story. Your support means everything. Until the next royal tale, remember, even the darkest nights can lead to the brightest dawns.